Cassia Stra with Music for Your Inbox, and today I'm going to invite Adrian Tenney, who's a visual artist and musician, to join us to chat about their artwork that they created this month and that we are featuring on our platform. Some of you might have been lucky enough to already get it in the mail. So let me take a minute to invite her to join. Hi, Adrian.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Cassia. This is my first Instagram Live. Thank you for your patience with the as I log on.
I'm so honored to be the first Instagram Live to facilitate this. Yeah, it's always great to chat with you, and I wanted the world to hear about your visual art and your music art as well. So maybe we could start talking about, because I know you from different disciplines and different walks of life and different time periods. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey into visual art, because that's what we're featuring this month with your print that has Wind and Sound number 6. So yeah, could you talk a little bit about how you got started making visual art?
Yeah, sure. I think I started really young, just having supportive parents who were in the arts, who gave me art supplies and space to mess around. And then through high school and after high school, taking city college classes and just being really lucky and fortunate to have really good teachers there at College of the Canyons who also just interesting people who wanted to see people experiment, and they made it fun. And for me, that was really important, having an art practice be fun and not feel like work, I guess. And then eventually ending up getting a undergrad degree in visual arts, and where you and I met at Cal Arts. But that was an interesting place because they let you mess around too, and so in my last year there, I was in more Balinese gamelan classes than in art classes, and I honestly didn't really come out of that feeling like I had a path in a career to create visual art. But I will say that it wasn't until I went back to school for landscape architecture at Cal Poly Pomona that I kind of understood and realized how valuable that experience was, because they kind of encouraged us to experiment and take risks, and that was really helpful. Do
you mean at Cal Art? Like at Cal Arts,
they encouraged that, and then it came in handy at Cal Poly Pomona.
Right, because they're sort of asking you to do that, and you're already really comfortable kind of poking around at things. Mm-hmm. I feel like that curiosity led, and sort of in a great way. I don't mean sort of to sound like I feel like curiosity and interest and sort of like, I wonder what this would be like, is really something that has kind of followed the way that you've made art and incorporated it into your life. As an artist, I've always been inspired by that, that aspect of your work. And I mean, if I can sort of share an anecdote that I share with a lot of people, sure. Is I remember one day you came home after being in the Balinese gamelan and sat down at one of those grand pianos in the living room and just started to kind of poke away at the melody, and it was kind of just stuck in your head. And I had studied gamelan a bit at Cal Arts, not as extensively as you did, but the tuning system is so entirely different than the Western tuning that I had studied that I had a hard time kind of just sort of poking at it, or I felt like it was so sacred I couldn't touch it in some way. And I loved how you were able to look at these musical pieces, like the components, individual components, and sort of see how they interconnect and sort of play with them in a kind of inquisitive way. It wasn't disrespectful or something, but it was just sort of like, it was just like, oh, well, this pitch is close enough to this pitch,
Mm.
and sort of bonking away at it and being like, oh yeah, this is the gamelan
Yeah.
song I had. And I feel like you've always been really, you have like a fluency with art that is kind of like a language.
Well,
Does
I
that sound
feel
right to
like
you?
I really appreciate that, Cassia. I guess I would say it's always been important to me to use art, whether it's music or visual art, painting, or even gardening. Like I've used it as a meditative practice, like used it as something to kind of calm me down, and like so the aspect of play and messing around and experimenting has always been important because it allows me to enjoy it. And sometimes it's been helpful, sometimes it's been a hindrance because I haven't wanted to really learn how to like read music very fluently or
Mm-hmm.
like study things very carefully, and that's made it hard to collaborate sometimes. But at other times, I think it's made it easier for like non-musicians or people who don't identify as artists to bring them in to projects too and say like anyone can do this. And so yeah, hopefully that's been effective.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've noticed that certainly the music collaborators that you've worked with over the years have had like a range of, I don't want to say skill in a way that sounds sort of, but I guess like conservatory level skill versus intuitive, just being musicians and understanding how to play everything by ear and understanding how things sound good intuitively without necessarily having a lot of formal classical,
Yeah.
Western classical training.
Yeah.
Um, so I do think it's working for what it's worth. Um, I also, yeah, we keep talking about, like I was thinking like first we'll talk about your visual art and then we'll talk about your music, but I think the truth is that they're really intertwined, and it feels to me, if I can make this leap, like you often have sort of a goal or an idea, and sometimes it comes out as a painting and sometimes it comes out as a song. Does that sort of sound right, or is it more like following different, I don't know. I guess how do you think of it? Do you separate the two disciplines?
Yeah, I do. Um, I can't say that there's too much logic to why I do which one at what time, but I think I was thinking about it when you sent me like the questions you're gonna ask today. I cheated. Um,
No, it's okay.
I was thinking like, well, how do they connect? And I think all of my art practices, music, visual art, but also the landscape design work and environmental design work, landscape consulting too. I'm always working towards the goal of trying to make the landscape legible for people, because to me it's like the most beautiful, profound thing in this world is being able to understand the landscape system. And so a lot of like lyrics I write, even when it's for like indie pop or punk music, um, are working towards that goal to try to like help people form relationships with the landscape. And like even some of the drawings I make, the one you are using for this project is pretty abstract, but I draw comics too and like do really literal drawings. But I think I'm always trying to get to that. How do I make the like legibility of the landscape more accessible for people so that they can then form deeper relationships, ultimately working towards the goal of all of us acting in community with the landscape and the environment that sustains us.
Yeah, I think I mean, the care that you put into I mean, if we could talk quickly about plants, because it's always fun to talk
Anytime,
about plants with you.
anytime.
Um, yeah, the sort of care you bring to it. Like there is a cactus I can see like from where I'm sitting. That's from a transplant from your house when you were living up in Valencia. And it's a very, very purple paddle cactus. And I remember like you really carefully, because it's like extraordinarily pokey, and like very carefully like loading a Mazda that I had and be like driving 30 miles to LA, hoping that it didn't
Yeah,
fall over.
they all have
But it's like,
personalities.
yeah, and it's just sort of it's a remarkable thing. I'm curious about that aspect of like, because that was the beginning of when you were getting interested in kind of desert plants like cacti and succulents, and I know that you've
Mhm.
moved even further into like the California native plants and creating like sustainable like region specific gardens and stuff. But at the time you were just sort of starting out. I think you and your dad were really interested in it together and looking at all these cacti. Is it fact that you can sort of snap off a piece and hand it to someone and then they can grow it? It sort of reminds me of that like sourdough starter or like some kind of desirable chain mail. Is there an aspect of that that was interesting to you when you talk about community building, or was it completely, am I making too big of a leap?
I like that. I really like that leap. That's definitely true. I mean, if you can share a plant, and especially plants that people can grow for food, um, like the Glentia cactus, you can eat that in salad, salsa, you can eat the fruit. So something that you can just like easily grow at home and then constantly make cuttings of, that is like a wonderful way to just have an ongoing gift resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. I remember like years ago I had someone move a piano from like where I'm sitting to like upstairs, and it was a really complicated maneuver where they had to like jiggle all these little dollies, and it was like a huge flight of concrete stairs. Anyhow, the entire time they kept looking over their shoulder and talking, and I was thinking like, oh my gosh, this is like a really complicated piano. But of course not. They're totally pros. They get down the stairs and they're like, how'd you get that cactus so purple? Like, it's like the entire conversation they've been having about this piano. And I was
That's
like, I don't
awesome.
know. It's from Adrian. I don't know why it's
The
purple.
purple one, they turn purple with stress, honestly. Like that one specific, like it's a good stress. It's like if it's really cold or really sunny, they'll have more color. If it'll also turn green if it's stressed from too much shade. But yeah, like cold nights or really full sun makes them have more vibrant color.
Cool.
And you can
Cool.
kind
Well,
of see, if you see one of those purple cactus, go look, and the back side of the paddle will be greener. The side that's more shaded, you can see the front side will be more purple or pink.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, well, anyways, it's always fun to, yeah, talk about plants with you. I also wanted to talk a little bit specifically about the postcard where
Hmm.
we're featuring your work, and we wanted to invite you to be the visual artist this month because the sound artist and the video artist were both creating pieces that were about like the environment or their specific environment
Hmm.
and how it related to what they were making, what they were doing. And that Nyla Hunter, who created the audio, she was creating kind of like a fantasy, kind of like a hyper reality of what she imagines nature could do. And then Shen Kuang, who was creating the video, was making the video about, actually, it's not even that far from where you live, but her apartment that she was leaving. And it's kind of like this love song for this little environment. And so we wanted visual art for a person who's really connected to their space and their world. And of course, like we thought of you, and you gave us a couple of really cool options of things you've been working on, and then the one that we all felt like was the best pairing. I have the postcard here, but I think you have the originals, right?
I do. Yeah.
Do you have
Here.
the Highland Park parrots at your place right now?
I do.
Wow. This is huge. I didn't realize how
Yeah.
big it was. That's so cool. So you
Yeah.
had that. So how did you make this specific piece? So this specific piece is called Wind and Sound number 6. And can you read all the other little words? Because my old lady eyes aren't serving me well.
It's a California native garden in the suburbs, 5 to 5:20 a.m. Distant, constant freeway and light breeze. So this is actually came out of an assignment I was given in grad school to the instructor, Barry Lerman, asked us to go sit outside, close your eyes, and start painting or drawing, making marks on the page according to what sounds you heard. This is another one I made. This one is 8 to 8:20 a.m. So there's a lot more like disturbances in the sound. There's planes, cars, birds, skateboards. But the early morning one, it's just like really distant sounds. So, and I just kind of was recording them as like putting my brush on the page and then kind of recording them through time as in just, I don't know, it was very meditative, and this is how it came out. I appreciated the prompt though, to basically like go listen really carefully and then translate what you hear. And I just feel like that's something we as artists need to be doing constantly, is like listening and then translating. So
that's neat. I've done that before with like recordings where I call them like transcriptions, and this is really similar, except you can actually draw, unlike me. That's super cool. What's that one from?
You don't have to draw.
Somebody actually asked a question. Can
Yeah?
I ask you this question? This is from a person named Studio Munya.
Yeah.
And they're saying, what are your thoughts on feelings, logic, and magic in the creative process? How does that differ between visual and sound? So,
feelings,
thought, and logic, and magic in the creative process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting prop. Thank you, Yanj. I appreciate that. Because I watched the film. It's so beautiful. And
you're talking about Shen Kuang's film?
Shen Kuang's film, yeah. And I noticed how it was like making me think about so many different things, like possible other dimensions or possible other futures. I might have watched Dune last night. But like, and then reading your and Jen's description about tying the three of us together, how we were all kind of yearning to find a home in our natural and urban environments, and I appreciated that. That I was thinking, like, this to me is very logical and not so magical. Like, at least what I was trying to do was just record something. But as soon as you insert a human being with, what was the other? Emotional? Not logical.
They're saying feelings, logic, and magic.
Yeah. As soon as you put someone between the logic and the translation, we're so much feelings, especially artists. We have so much feelings. So what ends up, the product is going to end up being a lot of feelings about logic, I guess.
Yeah. Well, because I think also, like, oftentimes we have an idea of what something looks like or sounds like, and then we'll, like, turn on a microphone and we're like, oh my God, no, that's like not what I was hearing, because our brains are filtering out all these different sounds. Or the same thing with like a picture, like you think you're seeing a plant in a way and you take a picture of it. Obviously, no one takes a picture like this anymore, but you take your picture and it's like the camera isn't seeing what you're seeing, right? I feel like we have to really work hard to kind of create for other people what we are hearing and seeing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so like you could have, of course, stood outside and taken a picture like to represent this, but it wouldn't have been how you know what I mean, how you're experiencing it. So I think that this prompt is great because they're asking you to be a camera lens, except knowing full well you can't be,
Yeah.
and then looking at the result of it. Were you thinking of this as like time equals space, just because you are a time-based artist as well as a like time frozen artist, I guess, with music, it's time-based, it's going along. Like, were you thinking of it like minute one, minute two, like that? Or did you add the layers like one at a time? Or was it kind of like the whole experience sounded like this?
Um, I was going left to right, just like, okay, my hand's gonna move when I hear something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just pretty straightforward the way Western writers write,
Yeah,
left to right.
it's super cool. I was really into it. And I also think that it was neat because I am familiar with your comic work and of course that beautiful print that you just made with your uncle and like collaboration for your album, your record release. So yeah, it was really cool to see this other aspect. And then of course when I saw it, I kind of also wasn't surprised because I was like, oh yeah, of course Adrian has this like secret art practice I didn't even know about, even though I know about like five of their other things.
I wish I had more time to paint. Painting is so cathartic and therapeutic. But so is music.
Yeah,
And so
I think
is gardening.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like also there's a good balance of people and no people in those things you just described. A lot of your music tends to be collaborative and you're working with other people. And gardening can be solo or people, and then the painting seems like it's a little more solitary.
Gardening is a collaboration with plant and plants and animals who I consider people too.
Great.
So
Yeah, then it's not as solitary.
yeah.
I remember a long time ago you were over and my eldest daughter was a tiny baby and she was just very angry for like the first year of her whole life.
Oh.
And she was out there on this chair and I was kind of like done. And I came back out and she was holding this like giant plant. And you were like, she seems sad, so I gave her a plant, and she was super happy.
Yeah.
And it was just really funny. It was just like a giant, I don't even know if it was a weed or whatever, but it just made me laugh. Because you were like thinking about things that make you feel better.
We need to touch the plants. We need to touch the plants. We need to be outside. We need to like have deeper relationships with the processes that are out there in the landscape, I think.
So, Adrian, what's kind of like next for you on the horizon artistically? What projects are you excited about right now?
Still working in landscape design. I'm here at my office right now. I'm in the materials shed. I'm excited about some of the landscape consulting I'm doing with the indigenous tribes and land conservancies in LA County. Just finished watercolor for a project called Disappearing Birds. My friend Hannah Pei, I think she's here, shared it with me, and that's going to be like over 100 artists depicted one bird in North America that's vulnerable, so it's coming out in a book I think next year.
Wait, so it's 100 perspectives on a single bird?
Each artist got assigned a different bird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I would love to see 100 paintings of the same bird.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of amazing.
That would be cool too. Well,
I see, but you each were you were
Yeah.
each given like an assignment of
Hmm.
one bird.
Yeah.
Very cool. And they're native to
No,
LA?
no, North America.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. And then music-wise, just finished recording and releasing a new record. I'm gonna show it
Yes, you should.
here.
You should be very, very proud of that, by the way. It is
It's called
tremendous.
Floods. Our band is called Badlands. Hannah is the drummer. And we're working on setting up shows, setting up some tours, some few like short things, Arizona and Bay Area, and then and Hanch from Studio Munya has the audio clip on this too, where she says she was doing a guest lecture for my class at Cal Poly Pomona, and so I recorded it on Zoom, obviously, and she said she was explaining to the class like that you have a safe space here to make mistakes, and it is the job of everyone to try their best to create something beautiful, thoughtfully, respectfully, and courageously. And I just love that so much, so it's on the record.
It's great. It's a nice Easter egg.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for having me, Cassia.
Thanks, Adrian.
Really loved the film and the piece in the film too. Also beautiful. And the whole series is really cool. It's an honor to be part of it.
Well, thanks. And thanks for your support and saying yes. And I think everyone should
It's good to say yes.
Yeah, everyone should
get to say
like
yes.
an Adrian Tenney postcard in their mailbox. We're happy to mail them out to folks. If they go to our link, they can get a piece of Adrian's art with their observations on the back.
And the QR code on the postcard lets you watch the film. So if I send you a postcard, make sure you scan that.
Right? I feel like QR codes, they're such a great link between the real world and the digital world, but
they're
we're
really
still not
making a comeback.
fluent. They are.
Yeah.
They were poorly rolled out in the first place.
We used them we played a show on the LA River last week, and we printed out a QR code so the touring band could get donations, and it worked.
Yep.
Yep.
Every time.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, Adrian. Happy planting today. In under the gray skies. I feel like this weather is matching up pretty much exactly today.
Yeah, it's
kind of nice.
A beautiful spring day.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Likewise. Take good care.